and welcome to Diverse and Inclusive Leaders, the show where I interview the most inspirational and thought-provoking leaders of today and unearth their unique stories of diversity and inclusion to help inspire, educate, and motivate others to make the world a better place. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by a fantastic individual. His name is Jon Dutton, and he's the Chief Executive for the Rugby League World Cup 2021, which is actually not too far away, given that we're only in 2020 right now. Now, Jon's had a spectacular career within sport and also run his own business. He commenced his full-time role in February 2018, having left his post at RFL Director of Projects and People. He led the successful bid for the tournament, including a 25 million funding award from HM Government. Jon is a graduate of sports with over 20 years worth of experience in the sports industry. He previously worked for the PGA European Golf Tour and Manchester FA with a secondment to UEFA and ran his own sports consultancy business in addition. In addition to all of that fantastic experience, Jon is also a member of the UK Sports Major Events Panel, a specialist advisory board. His main purpose is to represent the interest of UK sport by making major event investment recommendations to the UK Sport Board. Jon, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you very much. My privilege to join you.
Thanks so much for being here with us, Jon. And before we kind of dive into the conversation for today, which I've really been looking forward to, I must ask, talk to some of our listeners. I'm sure most have heard of you anyway, but give us a little brief rundown of not only some of the current projects that you're working on, which are terribly exciting, but also how you came to be where you are today, because it's a pretty high profile role indeed, and one that I wonder whether you expected to find yourself in many years ago.
Yeah, first thing to say, it's an absolute privilege, the role I have at the moment, leading a global major sporting tournament, predominantly based in the north of England, and a sport that I'm very passionate about. As you alluded to earlier, my professional career began probably about 25 years ago. I grew up as a young boy, always wanted to be a professional athlete, a professional rugby league player. It's fair to say I was never good enough nor brave enough. So sports administration is not a bad second best. And I have had a really fortunate career to work in professional sports, football, cycling, golf, lots of different sports, and now to lead this quite amazing project, something I've been working on already for 5 years. And as you mentioned, not too long to go, just about 19 months before the tournament gets underway.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And you say there very modestly, you kind of didn't think you were good enough as you were, kind of a young lad growing up loving sport. Did you envisage that you would be at this kind of point in your career? Because I mean, that is, you put it lightly there, not about second best, in admin, but it's definitely not admin being, chief exec of one of the most well-known kind of, sporting tournaments in the UK and certainly worldwide.
Yeah. To be able to do something that's a passion, that's been a large part of my life, it just feels I'm very humbled by the opportunity that I've been given. But to work with professional athletes who I am completely in awe of, people that dedicate their body, their life to going out there, putting their bodies on the line. And certainly in the world of rugby league is fairly physical. It requires a high degree of skill. So my job, what I'm able to do, is able to showcase those athletes on the very biggest stage when the tournament comes round. And the most important bit for us was 5 years ago, taking a decision to stage the men's, women's and wheelchair tournaments all together at the same time. So those amazing athletes we can show to the world.
Mm-hmm. And I love that it's just such an inclusive sport. I know you've been really proactive in talking not only on YouTube but on the mainstream TV channels about how this is such an inclusive sport, and I'm really excited actually to dive into that later. But before we do, and this is kind of a little unusual, I guess for our podcast usually, but we are releasing this at the time of, the unprecedented COVID-19. I thought it would be, absolutely kind of opportune really to ask you about this, because sport, of course, has been one of the first hit, what with the mass gatherings and everything like that. So Jon, talk to me about what you have seen with the coronavirus and how we can possibly stay sane in these crazy times.
Yeah, I think your word, Leila, was absolutely right. Unprecedented, certainly in our lifetime. Also uncertain. It is an incredible period that people are facing. Sport has been impacted, and I read a wonderful article over the weekend where the journalist was saying sport is the most important of the least important things, and sport is a huge part of many people's lives, whether it gives them structure at a weekend, whether it gives them something to look forward to. And certainly sport has been massively impacted. So from a Rugby League perspective, like many other sports, the season is now suspended. People don't know when that will resume. That has an enormous knock-on effect on broadcast, on commercial relationships, and also spectators who have that thirst to have an outlet and have some positivity in their lives. So we have to stay positive. One of the things is having something at the end of all of this to look forward to, and certainly Rugby League and many other sports, I think will have a massive part to play in helping us come through this.
Absolutely. And I mean, thank goodness in one way it's 2021. I bet you were thinking, well, at least we've got a little time, because you've been preparing for this for many, many years now, really.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's already 5 years worth of work. I first started this project in 2015, and we are having a conversation with colleagues at the Football Association. They obviously have had a huge decision, along with UEFA, to move the men's European Championships back by a year. And the impact of this, when we fully understand it, will be disturbance, creates uncertainty. And what that will lead to is everyone will be impacted either in a small or a significant way. But at this period of time, it's the most important thing that people keep healthy, stay well, have a positive mindset. We've got a huge commitment towards mental fitness, and I think everyone's mental health and well-being is of the utmost importance during this quite incredible period.
Absolutely. And are there any tips that you might be able to give us when it comes to staying mentally healthy and also physically healthy? Because I'm sure that that's something that all the players across the board have been asking you. We're used to being out every day training for this, and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
is everyone kind of in lockdown and in self-isolation?
Yeah, I think just for everyone, not just the players. Physical well-being leads to mental well-being. It's certainly been a big part of my life. I run, and that is, yes, it keeps me healthy, but it's for my mind rather than for my body. So I think the tips are to try and stay positive, to keep some structure in your working day in particular, and to be calm and rational. We've seen lots of things in the media, particularly across social media, and that has bred, I think, even more uncertainty. So it's to try and stay calm.
Yes, absolutely. As I say in the war, stay calm and carry on. But it couldn't be more true. You're absolutely right. You kind of got it in a nutshell there. Some of the things on social media that I've seen, certainly, about shelves being stripped and whatnot. And you kind of just think, if we all just did and consumed what we were meant to, usually we wouldn't be in such a bad situation. But anyway, trying to stay on the side of being positive, as you said, doing exercise, absolutely critical, keeping the mind as well as the body, which is almost, I dare say, more important sometimes, almost than physical health, to keep on, doing those exercises, whether they're in the house or whether you can escape for a run, which I'm with you, Jon. Going for a run and keeping the social distance is
Absolutely.
It's been critical. Okay, so I guess moving on to other subjects, and thank you for sharing tips on COVID-19, and kicking straight off, I guess, with inclusion, because it's just such a wonderful thing that rugby is so inclusive. What does diversity and inclusion and belonging, I guess, mean to you specifically, Jon? Because I know you've been very outspoken about it, and talk to us about some of the wonderful things that you are doing across the board when it comes to sport and inclusivity.
Yeah, inclusivity, it's one of our core values and has been there from the start. So when we were constructing this tournament, in our considerations with government, with our funding partners, we wanted to be bold and brave, and we wanted to, for the first time ever, to stage the men's, women's and wheelchair tournaments together, as I mentioned earlier. What that meant was a huge logistical challenge. So we now have 61 games in our tournament across 20
Wow.
venues. But it's about putting the athletes on the same platform. We have a deal with the BBC, which will showcase the games to a live terrestrial audience here in the UK. We're just working through our international rights to make sure that anyone, anywhere in the world can consume and enjoy the tournament. So some of the things that we have done specifically, I mean, the first thing to say about wheelchair rugby league, many people believe they've seen it, but they haven't. They've seen the Paralympic version. So wheelchair rugby league is a true derivative of the men's running game, and it can be played by disabled and non-disabled athletes playing together, and it can also be played by men and women playing together. So in terms of inclusivity, anyone can come and try it. It's fairly physical. It requires a high degree of skill, and it's fair to say that the disabled athletes are probably more adept in being able to get the wheelchair around the court, and they are the superstars. We've got a chap called James Simpson, a truly inspirational person who's our ambassador. He served in the armed forces, served in Afghanistan. He triggered an IED and unfortunately lost both of his legs. But James says that wheelchair rugby league saved his life, and he is the most passionate, inspirational person that will truly celebrate, promote wheelchair rugby league. So we've done many things. One of the considerations some time ago was about having an equal participation fee for the men, women and wheelchair athletes, and we've introduced that. So that's something that we will fund ourselves. We've also introduced prize money for the women and wheelchair tournaments for the first time ever. So this year, it is about staging a truly inclusive tournament where all of the athletes will play together. We start our women's tournament at Anfield in Liverpool, and then our men's and women's finals will both be staged at Old Trafford on the same day, live on the BBC, on the same ticket. And that, we hope, is a manifestation of all the work that we'll have done over this period.
That is fantastic. And you touched there on all of these northern cities. And I know from listening to a number of your interviews, not only are you, ridiculously passionate about inclusion, but all of these northern cities. Tell me why you're so passionate about the north and what it means to you to be playing all of these wonderful games up in the north of the country.
Yeah, we're staging about 85% of the games in the north. For me, the power of the north is very significant, and we're looking at the cities of the north: Leeds, Newcastle, Sheffield, Hull, Manchester, Liverpool, and also the towns of the north. Civic pride will play a huge part. People in local communities will want to celebrate where they live and project that on a global stage. So this is really special in terms of that inclusive approach, but also the commitment to celebrating the power of the north.
How exciting. And I know I was listening to you, I think it was on Sky Sports or something like that, talking very specifically about inclusivity, actually. And you were just kind of, you were saying that it's absolutely something, the disabled and kind of, disabled games within rugby, which is just absolutely phenomenal. And I have to say, I did Google it on YouTube because I think some people, like you said, think that when they've seen the Paralympics, actually, they've seen rugby played this way, and it was just absolutely. I mean, it is brutal, isn't it?
It is brutal. It takes a special person to give it a go and certainly play at the elite level. But yeah, I mean, there's some wonderful stories about brothers that have grown up together, one disabled, one non-disabled, being able to play the same sport. In Australia, there's a father and son that play for the national team together. I mean, just the stories that emanate from it. And this is about inspiring people. It's about making a positive impact on people's lives. We've got a big social impact, social mobility, social benefit we're trying to create and also measure. Yeah, it's just using our time. At the end of the day, the tournament will exist for 5 weeks, but this will be the best part of 7 years worth of certainly.
Oh, God, I bet it's going to be a very weird feeling actually when it's all over and you've been working towards that for such a long time. But actually, just to come back to your point there on social mobility, which I think is such a critical piece of inclusion and something which is invisible. You know, when we think of diversity and inclusion and belonging, I think often, you know, people see this, you know, purely as gender or disability or LGBTQ+, but actually there's so much of the inclusion piece that actually lies below the surface. So when it comes to social mobility and actually communities and gathering the communities together, I think it does a remarkable job, an absolutely remarkable job, because it is really showing that it is for everyone. Doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter, you know, what kind of physical ailment you might have, but there's nothing stopping you getting involved in this fantastic sport.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of major sports events have really focused on trying to encourage people to play the sport. For us, that would be a wonderful outcome. But more important for us is to make a positive impact on people's lives, particularly in the local communities that we will serve. And going back to the early part about it being in the north, in some hard to reach communities. So whether that's our community cultural programme, dance, choir, whether it's the loneliness, dementia, the mental fitness program that we will roll out, whether it's our volunteering aspect to it. We only exist for a short period, and we've got to be really conscious of trying to make the maximum possible impact, and then other people taking that forward. So from a social mobility perspective, it's more about campaigning, it's more about visible, it's more about storytelling, and I think if we can do those things, then hopefully people can pick up the baton after us when the fireworks have gone off, the trophies have been lifted, and we don't exist anymore.
Absolutely, and you're very right there with storytelling. Again, I think I heard you say at another interview, because you know, essentially you are selling the idea and discussing this wonderful idea which is yet to come to the forefront that we're all so excited about. But I think, you know, the power of storytelling, not only in sport but I think in life in general, especially with inclusivity, is absolutely critical, so that we can try and, you know, almost see the world through another lens.
Yeah, and we were incredibly lucky that we did our draws for the tournament at Buckingham Palace in January. We had Prince Harry, one of his very last formal engagements, and he said during the draw that sport saves lives, and it couldn't be further from the truth. It inspires people, it gets people healthy, it has a focus in people's lives. It is so critically important. So from a campaigning perspective, genuinely making a difference. We're also very keen to measure our impact, and that's quite hard. If it's about the number of people being healthier and playing sport, that's actually quite easy to measure. If it's about economic impact, that's quite easy to measure. So social impact is very hard to measure, because in some instances it might be just about creating memories, but memories are so critically important to us. So yeah, we're going to immerse ourselves over the next few months in trying to find a methodology to measure our impact.
Oh, brilliant. Well, I will be really, really looking forward to hearing how you go about that, because I think, well, as you said, you know, what gets measured, you know, it gets managed, and, you know, there has to be a way that we can actually measure the positive benefit of things like sport and what that can do for the wider community. And in fact, worldwide, because of course, you've always been a fan of kind of digital outreach and really having a presence and being in the 21st century. And, you know, the fact that now people can tap into this from wherever they might be in the world is just phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to be a digital first tournament. It's obviously very relevant at the moment with our workforce and many people around the world now working from home, and digital connection is just so critical. And we're staging the tournament in 2021. It will be inconceivable for me not to have a contemporary modern tournament, thinking also of younger people, thinking of how entertainment and sport consumption has radically changed, and we want to have an overlay that engages with people. Some people might never have seen rugby league, might not be interested in rugby league, so if there's a digital enabler to help them understand the game, be part of, engage with our experience, then we're going to give that a real big push.
So just quickly before we head into the lightning round for today, how can people access the Rugby League World Cup if they aren't doing so already? Presumably online, but where can we go to consume this media?
Yeah, socials are a good start. Twitter, Facebook, all of the usual places. So RLWC 2021 is our handle. We have a website with lots and lots of information on there, and we're hopefully when we come the other side of this quite incredible period, we'll start to go on sale. We'll be selling tickets so people can then really engage and really interact with us. And we've got a huge target, the most ambitious target ever, in trying to sell 3/4 of 1 million tickets.
Wow.
So yeah, that's something that will keep us all busy. But we just want people to come, enjoy, experience the sport, and hopefully take away one of those great memories.
I'm sure that you'll hit that target, knowing you, Jon. I'm absolutely sure you will. And let's go into the lightning round before we run out of time for today. And I know previously you very modestly kind of said, about kind of, not being, able to be an athlete or taking the number 2 admin spot. But clearly you've done exceptionally well and would be perceived by many across the world as being incredibly successful executive. So, start off with perhaps the hardest question, but what is your secret to success, Jon, if there is one, or a couple?
Just hard work, being relentless, but also being humble. I think that's really important. I have a huge appetite to learn, insatiable appetite to learn and learning from other people. So yeah, you cannot beat hard work though. That is predominantly where I think I have succeeded.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely concur. That's one of my top choices, I have to say. And I, sorry, without talking about myself too much here, but I always said when I was younger, I certainly was not the brightest, but I could outwork others. And I always ask this question to execs and CEOs and things like that. And hard work always comes up. And so, I guess to those who are listening in, unfortunately, hard work cannot be escaped if you do want to be successful. But there's many other tips and tricks I'm sure that you can use as well. So like Jon said, humility, I think, is very, very important in today's modern world where you need to have a big heart and to be humble about yourself. Okay, so next, what advice might you have given to the young Jon Dutton who did want to be an athlete? If you're able to go back, I suppose, and speak to your younger self, what would you say?
Yeah, but follow your dreams. Life is complicated. Nothing ever goes in a straight line. But if you fall down, just get back up and go again, and it might take you in a different direction. But having a vision, having a passion, following your dreams, I think is so important.
And what about authentic leadership? What is authentic leadership to you?
Yeah, authentic, interestingly, is one of our corporate values, and being authentic is incredibly important. I think that touches on humility. For me, trust, building up a culture, trying to set people up for success and help them succeed through empowerment, through enablement, so giving them the tools, mindset, and using their skill set to become leaders. There is nothing more gratifying, I don't think, in a professional career than seeing someone that you've helped coach go on to be successful, and that's certainly what I hope from my team going forward.
Wonderful. And who has been your biggest inspiration?
My biggest inspiration in my life is my father. My dad first introduced me to sport. He was a head teacher. He has been my sort of advisor all the way through my career. So just a huge part of my life, as both of my parents have been.
Oh, lovely. I didn't realize he was a head teacher. Wow, fantastic.
Yeah.
So was he a scary head teacher? Because I was always petrified of our head teacher.
I don't think so, but my 10-year-old son, who's now like everyone else, is at home doing his schoolwork. My dad's dusted off his head teacher approach and has set him a lot of work. So probably not the most popular at the moment.
Your son will thank him in later life. I'm absolutely sure. I'm absolutely sure. And I guess finally, are there any kind of favorite heroes, sheroes, books, authors, quotes, anything that you can leave us with other than the podcast, which is actually, I have to say, been incredibly inspirational. One of my really, quite favourite podcasts. I think it's great talking about sport. But anything that you can leave us with, any glimmers or nuggets of wisdom that you can impart with myself or our listeners who are tuning in today?
I'll leave you with two quotes, Leila, that have always been a big part of my life. The first one, the shortest answer is doing. Just get on and just do it. And the second one is something that I have always held true. Without challenge, there is no achievement. I've never been involved in anything where it's been easy and straightforward and you felt that sense of achievement, but hard work, being relentless, the achievement through challenges, incredibly powerful.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very, very much indeed, Jon. And as you've been speaking, I've been making lots of notes, of which there are many. So I'm going to just summarize, I guess, a couple of key pieces as I usually do. But I mean, for me, there's been plenty of learning. I think, you're an absolute testament to hard work and inclusivity as well. I think, the amount of kind of innovation and genuine kind of, giving back, not only to the community through something as powerful as sport, but something that also can be so local and so incredibly worldwide at the same time is just absolutely wonderful. From kind of gender equality within your sport, through to disability, and even involving kind of local choirs. I mean, I think absolutely kind of touch every single facet, which is just wonderful. And I hope that there's plenty of people today who are listening in who are not only inspired and wanting to get involved in the sport, but also inspired by the journey that you've been on, which I think is genuinely kind of phenomenal. From kind of early days, working your way up through the many different facets of sport to, clearly being incredibly relentless, picking yourself up and kind of dusting yourself off, great example to set to other future leaders, kids, your kids, I'm sure, alike as well. And so, to leave you again with, I guess, one of Jon's quotes, which I think, in fact, we've never had on the show actually before, is the shortest answer is doing. Getting up and simply just doing it actually is, one of the best mottos I think we can possibly have in life when it comes to driving towards success. So thank you very, very much indeed, Jon. Very much appreciated for you being here with us today.
Thank you very much, Leila.
Thanks. And if you'd like to contact Jon, you can visit www.rlwc2021.com or Twitter at Jon-Dutton72, or you can visit Jon Dutton as well on LinkedIn in addition there. So thank you very much. My name is Leila Mackenzie Dallas. You've been listening to Jon Dutton, Chief Executive for the Rugby League World Cup 2021. You've been listening to Diverse and Inclusive Leaders, the podcast show with you every week, and you can visit us on Apple or Spotify or any of your favorite podcast providers, including YouTube. www.dalglobal.org/podcast, and all of Jon's show notes are going to be in there for you. So if you didn't manage to capture it whilst we were on the show, you can visit all of the sites and the quotes that we've mentioned there today. So thank you very much, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week. Bye now. Thank you so much for watching the Diverse and Inclusive Leaders podcast. Please do feel free to hit the like button below, or if you'd like to receive future notifications, do ping the notification bell here at the side. If you're interested in the audio version only, you can find it on the following streaming platforms. Any extra info and descriptions will be in the links below. Look forward to seeing you soon.